Kansas State University Salina campus.
As always, thanks for having me.
Great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you guys.
We go way, way back.
We do.
Every time we have him on, we know we're going to
Yeah.
be talking about artificial intelligence as the number one thing. But
that's the thing these
first,
days,
we want to catch up with you. It's been a while, and you've had some travels. And
Yep, I've been out to U.S. Space Command and talking to them about and showing off what we've been doing over at Kansas State University Salina. And just showing off our space research.
After Space Command, he's going over to Galaxy Quest.
There you go. That's right.
No,
That's right.
Making fun of something that we shouldn't make fun of. It's now a serious business. Space Force and Space Command.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Absolutely.
Very big. What else you been doing?
We've of course working out on our K Area Spatial Computing National Spatial Computing Center. And
Tell us a little bit about that reminder.
The K Areas. Yeah. So we've got a new facility that we've got funding as well as Pure Imagination Studios that we're working with that's coming out.
Talked about that a couple of years ago, and now
it's actually realized and it's coming to fruition, and we've broke ground on the building, and we're going to be building out a new facility. You'll be able to swing by and see it here over by the airport here pretty soon. But it'll be a bit. It's not there yet.
We a year, 2 years down the road, probably.
Yeah.
Going to have a big open house. And
absolutely, big party.
Oh, it's going to be fun. Yeah,
it'll be
no
good.
doubt.
Yeah.
Well, this whole artificial intelligence thing, I'm just not sure I'm buying it. I'm just not sure that it's not all a big deep state, dark state, whatever secret. But boy, it's all the talk today.
It is.
Is it moving at the speed projected?
You know, each time you've had me in every few months every 3 or 4 months. That's now, right? Yeah, and each time it changes. It's just last time we talked, it was so fast. I mean, it's just moving so fast. It's hard for us researchers to keep up with it.
No doubt.
Even me on that I specialize in this area, and it just moves so fast. You know, you learn about a new model that someone came out with, or a new technology does things faster. More reasoning capabilities. I mean, it's amazing how fast it's going.
Well, to kind of set this up, we'll stick to what's going on right here in the U.S. right now, and who's leading the way? It would appear via the media, ChatGPT is leading the way here, but is it really?
I would say it's the big dog in the room right now, even worldwide. But there's a newcomer that's on the front called DeepSeek that just came out recently.
And that's the one that's got a lot of attention.
Yes. Yeah.
And that one does not base out of America. That comes from someplace that we have been taught to fear.
Yeah, and so they have, and this is something we've talked about in the past too, is it's kind of, we have a very different ideology set between East versus West.
Yes.
Like, Eastern philosophy around technology is even Japan, not just China. It's the Asia area. They don't have a lot of apprehension around technology usage in general.
Why is that?
It's just been a part of their technology and technology adoption has just been something in
Just
their
part
culture,
of their DNA.
not to fear, right? And we on the Western side have a little bit more apprehension about that. Yeah.
So they're into embracing. I mean, they want to hug that
absolutely,
AI and
absolutely.
embrace.
And that goes way beyond that. Western culture's always been apprehensive about anything new, anything that moves your cheese, anything that rocks your world.
That's going to take my job away.
Well, and we've been, and in his quick history lesson, we don't mind buying it. Right, so when
as long as
World
it's
War
cheap,
II,
we'll buy it.
we were taking, we didn't develop a lot of that knowledge in house for our nuclear weapons programs, and a lot of people don't realize this, but we didn't build that bioweapons program out that people don't realize that the United States has. We got that from Japan because we took all their people and gave them amnesty. They were building out quite a bit out there from both nuclear and bioweapons. We brought that all in-house. We said, hey, we don't have the expertise, we'll take it. Right, so we don't mind
smart
that.
business.
We've been very good at that. We did it with the Germans, the Japanese. We've done it very well.
We're kind of doing that with AI too.
Okay.
So that's where I'm going. Is we've been trying to attract that talent, right? On the economic side, like where can we get this talent from? Where we can pull it in? So because we see it as a big need.
Well, we know the president put his stamp of approval on this big facility out in the desert in Arizona to help fund the kind of technology it's going to supposedly we're going to need to allow AI to operate. And then along comes DeepSeek, and the thing that I think there's two things that I see that have put fear into the world. Fear number one is from those that are behind ChatGPT, and that's how cheap they say they were able to educate it. But number two, it's coming from somebody that we have deemed our enemy. I mean, we see that with TikTok and other things too, and now they come along with artificial intelligence.
Right. Well, they have built so just quick, right?
Sure.
High level. When you look at like how much it takes to build an AI model, these large language models like ChatGPT, these are models that are so large that the last statistic I read this isn't like buying hardware. This is to just do the model training takes about $100 million.
Where does
That's
the
just the software
What's the
rental cost of the hardware.
That's the software.
That's the software cost. The hardware and all that, of course, is something independent of the hardware cost. That's just the compute time to run, and that's the software. That is what is they're talking about it being in the future $1 billion.
Wow!
So because these models are so big, this is where the game changed with DeepSeek. Is that what ended up happening is on what they did is they built a model that could be just as performant, maybe even a little bit better than ChatGPT, and trained at a fraction of the cost.
Time out.
And how did they do that?
That's what everyone is asking, right? How did they do that? Now, and then here's another thing. It's an open source model, so which means that it's been available for researchers to look at. So, that was a game changer. It was a big eye opener for people. Yeah.
But if it is open source, can you open the hood on it? So called and find out.
But we have to ask the question: was it really that cheap, or is that just numbers being thrown out? How do you verify?
That's right. You got it, and that's the part of the research process, and that's the university process. That's the academic process. Go through and test it, find out. And the fact that they made it open source is a big deal. There's a lot of open source models out there, but this one that they put out was kind of a game changer. It's one of those things that we have to be able to get in and open it up and be allowed to test it. What we don't know, and this is with all of the large language models from all the architectures, this is more of and I don't mean to scare people, but it's no different than our human mind. We still don't know a lot about how our own brains work, right?
My wife tells me that every single day. I mean, not news to me.
And we have the same problem with these large language models is when we turn them on, I mean, we're talking about things that have 200-300 billion parameters in them. And so that is so large that when we turn them on, we don't actually understand the neural pathways, the neurons, the way that they activate and the way that they fire for certain reasoning tasks. We just give it an input and say, hey, this is great, and then we get a great reasoning output, and then we're like, how did it get to that?
You're telling us here that we've created software and we've created interactions within that software over the last 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, that we have now begun not to understand.
Yeah, and that's not new. There's an old saying too, especially in the data community, and this was back 25 years ago. We used to say this all the time, but humanity has been creating more data than we could ever possibly hope to understand each day. Daily, we create more data than we could possibly digest, and that's just as in total, sum total as the planet Earth, right? So that's why you see all these data centers just popping up and just stuff around Stargate AI and funding for these more data centers.
And Stargate's the big one in Arizona, and they're having to build power plants that could power a city that are specifically only to power these kind of.
Is DeepSeek, does it run on less energy?
Less energy, more efficient, right? The idea, and here's the other thing, and there's a misconception too about these models, I think, that might help. These models can run on your phone, and it's when you have to scale a model up, like to service, like ChatGPT does, millions and millions of people. Well, you got to build a server farm to be able to handle that kind of load. But these models, when you take let's say you take a 200 billion parameterized, and I'll get technical real quick. You take a 200 billion parameterized large language model and something like ChatGPT, and then you say, we call it quantize. We quantize it, we scrunch it down. After you you do all its model training. You go through this big giant, week-long process of training. You scrunch it down. It's only going to be about 200-300 gigs in size. So, and that can fit on a laptop, your own personal shrunk down. Yeah. And we teach here in Salina in our machine learning program, we teach how to use and use that process, shrink them down, and use open source models. These are smaller models. These are 2 billion parameterized, 3 billion parameterized type models, and they're only 3 or 4 gigs in size, right? They're real small, but because it's only me interacting with it, and I don't have I don't have a nation trying to interact with it at the same time, I can get away with it running on my phone. So I hope that helps a little bit, because
as these different models are being built, and there's several of them out there. Mm-hmm. We know that. You ask the same question to 2 or 3 different models, and you get 2 or 3 completely different answers. What are they using the same data sets to learn from, or what's going on with that?
They are different data sets, and this actually brings up an interesting problem that we have to deal with in the future. But they are different data sets, right? And they can be, let me rephrase that, depending on what you want it to do, right, or what you're trying to affect. So this is something. Mm-hmm.
It leads me down the aisle of the next question, which is obviously if they potentially are different data sets, then do they get built within them the same prejudices that the humans behind it
absolutely.
are?
Well, humans do the same thing. Let's keep it simple, right? When I'm trying to mint a human, I'm trying to build a human, right? Mm-hmm. Grow a human,
right?
You go through a process of building that human up through school, right? That's a training process, and that training process, after they go to college, they could be an attorney, and then they become and grow into that specialized knowledge base of being an attorney.
We can build these AI models that can hate our enemy, no matter.
Well, that's where the nature of warfare and where that's going to go down the road.
Our AI is going to not like their AI.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, who can outsmart who on the battlefield? That's the thing. Is like if and this is something that our military is actively engaged in. How do I take an AI model to understand, as an example, U.S. Army doctrine, and then say, okay, this is how we maneuver and fire on the battlefield, right? This is how we operate. Now, how best efficiently do I move those people and assets on a battlefield out across the territory? That's a big deal. Well, that's active research right now.
Okay, call me Pollyanna if you want to, but we see doomsday movies all of the time around artificial intelligence and what could happen. Isn't there hope that maybe as AI starts to communicate with each other, they look at it and go, these humans are idiots. We're not going to start wars with them. No.
It's a great question. Open area research, really.
We think that maybe AI takes over the world and eliminates humans, but maybe they say, no, we're going to make you guys get along.
I think that brings up a good point of if you back up to the last administration, there was the industry had moved so fast that the government was really kind of caught off guard.
Yes.
And so they said, wow, we need to put some safety guardrails in. We need to think through exactly what you just thought through.
Hasn't this administration eliminated some of those guardrails?
Yeah, so that's what's kind of scary. So in the prior administration, there was an executive order that went out to understand the safety and risk involved in AI deployments. And then towards the tail end of the last administration, there was another executive order that went out to kind of split the middle, because we were kind of losing the race to other what we call near peer adversaries like China. So, hey, what can we do to kind of loosen the guardrails so that we can increase innovation and learn more? Well, that's what scares people, right? And so you start to deregulate that space. Well, then what does that do? It increases innovation, but then you might lower the safety profile of what that looks like.
When we come back, we want to talk about why all these tech industry billionaires have saddled up to the new administration.
Absolutely.
Because I think there's a reason.
We could get into that for sure.
I want to know. Our guest, Dr. Michael Pritchard, Kansas State University here in Salina. Glad he's our guest again. Stick around, folks. Stargate Project, a new company, intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years. What are they building? What can this AI infrastructure do? Kind of unpack that for us. What is it?
Yeah, so it's funding for it's quite a few things, massive, but yeah, it's focused on the data center piece of it, the infrastructure. $500 billion for infrastructure to expand not just existing data centers, but of course new infrastructure, right, for specific to AI. And one of the things that is also a big part of that is, of course, jobs. And then, as weird as this sounds, it's increasing surveillance capabilities, right? Because that's what AIs are really good at, right? Digesting large amounts of information and then being able to, your video streams, your audio streams, the stuff that we used to worry about that the NSA would do with thousands of humans, right? You could do with the AI. So having that infrastructure and footprint to be able to do the cybersecurity and it creates jobs too, not just domestic, but it's a partnership that expands into Japan
They say
as
the
well.
average American's caught on camera about 240 times a day. We need more?
Think about the drones, right? And I don't mean to say that it's like, hey, there's more surveillance with drones. It's surveillance for like rescue as well,
sure.
Right? And those kind of things. Sure. It's not meant to right. There's other aspects to it that's not meant to be
one quick
surveillance state kind of stuff.
On Stargate, before we leave, I don't want to leave, but the power to power Stargate, is that part of the proposal too? And what does it take? Are we building nuclear power plants for this stuff?
It is part of the power grid. So Department of Energy is also part of that, right? And so power requirements as it relates to those data centers is part of the Stargate initiative. So it's building out more efficient power systems, and then because the GPU, so the model training for these AI models, right? That's the thing that's expensive, where we talked about earlier. If I can, if I want to do more of that, right, then I have to have more power and I have to have bigger data centers. It comes down to that's what it comes to.
Going back to DeepSeek, who they've maintained they can do it a lot cheaper, not have to have as much power behind it. Are we learning anything from that on how to make it more economical, make it easier, and I guess speed up the process?
Yes. Yeah, that's all part of the process. And the AI job, so this also helps to stimulate job creation for and developing skill talent that we can have domestic, and to research how to make AI models more efficient, right? So DeepSeek, we found when they released that, was like, wow, same reasoning capability, maybe even a little bit better, and smaller model and less training time to do it. There's another model. It's proprietary, built in the U.S. It's called Liquid AI, and it's cool, a different. Name. Yeah, it is kind of. It's slick.
No, because I'm seeing that Terminator movie where the robots made out of liquid, and I'm thinking, no, that guy creeped me out, man. No, I got to stay away from that one. I'm sorry.
See, Jeff and I are like, we're on a more positive side. So it's like, it's like liquid Terminator.
Give me the T-shirt. I want liquid AI.
I may be glad I'm my age now. I don't know, but
so I would say, but what's different about that architecture is it's proprietary, and they haven't opened it up for us to be able to take a look at it, which is different from DeepSeek.
But does that hold them back though, being proprietary like that, where they don't get input from other people?
It does. Yeah. It can. Yeah. It can.
Obviously, there's apprehension from a lot of folks about what's going on. But it seems to me the one thing they can do that will get everybody on their side, and I see these companies starting to look at, is using AI to find the cure for cancer or the cure for this.
Yes.
And they're going to get there quicker using AI. You come up with something like that, and suddenly AI is going to be all anybody wants.
Superstar.
Absolutely. And I say this because I know we tend to have, we as humans have a tendency like, the unknown, and then go to the negative. But you hit it on the head. I love to talk about the positives of what it is that we have with what's in front of us. Because as ChatGPT is an example, right? I mean, there's so many different use cases, from healthcare to mental health to general creativity, and helping us think through. I call it augmented intelligence. So it's one of those things where you still have autonomy, you still have agency, and then when I go in and use an AI, and I say, hey, I need a hand with this project, right? That's no different than you asking 10 of your friends to help you out.
Yeah.
You just have immediate access to it, right? So there's a lot of positives.
When it solves cancer, what does that look like in motion? Does it just run scenario after scenario so fast that it finds a serum or a way that solves a certain kind of cancer? How does it do it?
It does both. It can be in a lot of different ways. So I'll give you an example. I just read this the other day. It can be instantaneous, where it's just hey, I came up with this model, and you're gonna have to try to figure this out as a human, and or your engineering team is gonna have to figure it out. It was building out a chipset and a new CPU. And there was an AI that built a CPU model that was so complicated that the engineers couldn't understand it. Yeah,
That's me every day.
They were like, "Wow, this is pretty cool," and there's like, "Wow, that's amazing."
But how do you know it's cool if you can't even build it?
Just leaned over the teacher, though.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the engineers were, and the team was like, "It's going to take us a few months to digest what this thing created."
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and it's a more efficient architecture.
Which is great.
It's great.
We build stuff that on shores and where fires are and where earthquakes happen. It can help us with that.
Yeah. There's all kinds of other opportunities, and yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that gets into the embodied AI too, where we've got robots that we've got the humanoid robots, and this would be a great follow-up. But the embodied versus unbodied systems, which when we talk about ChatGPT, that's you talking to this thing in the cloud, right? Whereas they have open AI systems, right? Large language models, AI systems that are now going to be imbued within humanoid robots. That's something that
is going to be the coolest football league ever.
Yeah, I can't wait. Out. Yeah, robot football.
Man, I don't know, and I feel like we're really close. I mean, in human lifespan and things, we're talking very close.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I have an estimation that you're going to see humanoid robots that really are hard to indistinguish between Westworld type stuff within the next 5 years-ish, because the technology is moving so fast. Even on the mechanical side, that's the part that I was, if you asked me 10 years ago, oh man, how are we getting artificial general intelligence?
Do we have to mark these?
Are we sure?
Do we have to mark them so we know?
But are we sure Elon Musk is not one? I mean, how do we know?
I think Musk would probably play into that a little bit. Even if he wasn't, he'd probably say, "How do you know?"
So I go to, we talk about, in political terms, we've talked about deep state this, deep state that for a long time, and how the oligarchs of the world are running the world. Well, suddenly there's a whole new oligarchy out there, and that is the tech billionaires who have never been at the forefront as much as they are today, and they're behind an administration that, if I'd have went 4 years ago, would have said they would not be behind. What is going on with that, with these tech billionaires?
I think that there's a couple things happening there. One is, and I've talked about this, I used to give lectures on this about 10, 12-ish years ago now, because this is a topic that's been going on for a long time, and these folks have been heavily investing in this. This isn't something that just sprung up on overnight on the tech side. It's been something that's been building for some time. And Jeff Bezos used to say that AI is like it's a golden age of AI. He was saying that 10 years ago, and that's how far off the mark he even thought from his perspective, because in my opinion, we haven't even reached the platinum. I mean, we're kind of in platinum and who knows what else past that palladium age, I mean, beyond gold, because it's crazy how fast
we're on wagon wheels right now.
It's crazy how fast the technology. I mean, I believe that OpenAI has an artificial general intelligence framework already built out. It's just I've heard rumblings that we're not sure that people can even handle that at this time. So there's like a slow roll of that tech to be rolled out. Where I'm going is back to the oligarchy kind of thing, is that there was a continuum of that from Jeff all the way down to Elon. And that's interesting from Elon's perspective. He used to say, Elon, this is about, again, 10 years ago, that AI was as dangerous as nuclear weapons, right? And that was his perspective. And now it's interesting that you see both of them in the room so closely aligned with the government. And I think a lot of that is because they're looking for the funding around this, right? How do I take the safety rails off this stuff so that I can really go further, right? And especially in Eon's case around, deregulation, how can I launch more rockets? How can I do that more quickly, right? Well, I have to deregulate the environment to be able to do that. Right?
Well, if that happens, and it is happening.
That's right.
Does that leave the fate of mankind in the hand of just a few people who they either going to use it to build positive AI or the nuclear bomb?
Right. I don't.
A nuclear reactor AI or a nuclear bomb AI?
Right. I think you're going to have nuclear reactor AI.
I hope so. But it's at their whim. If they're the ones funding it, we've got to rely on a half a dozen people around the world and hope that their morals match ours. Do we not?
I would say yes. And I think at the same time, there are the guardrails and the guard systems that are in place around model training for these AIs. They're not gone. They're still there. And the process of training these models is going to be something that, there's going to be some innovation and there's going to be, some movement forward. But here's where there's going to be a thing that we're going to learn. We're going to stub our toe a few times.
Sure.
In this process.
Yeah, let's hope that stubbing our toe one time doesn't put a hole in the planet Earth.
I'll throw this out there and I've said this at the National Security Roundtable here, and this is something that I think that the future of the nature of conflict in general, we used to say water and things like that. One of the things that the nature of conflict is going to be around data. It's going to be water and data, right, in the future. Data because that's the models are only as good as the data that's inputted into them, right? The data set used to train a model. Sure. And that's how I sensitize and create an AI that's good at law enforcement versus an AI that's good at healthcare. They get trained differently, just like a human does.
Sure.
Right? I meant an MD versus different from a JD. As an example.
And we're going to run out of time, so I'm trying to get them in.
You got 12 minutes. You're good. Get them in. Get them in.
Does AI guard AI at the end of the day?
Great question. That is an active area of exploration because there used to be this, the early models back in 2016, 2017, we had this thing called the generative adversarial network, and it was exactly that concept where I had an AI that was testing another AI, just for lack of for us here, right? And I had two AIs kind of trying to outwit each other, if you think of it.
Yes.
And then through their conversation, they come up with a better solution, if that makes sense.
It's spy versus spy.
Yeah.
That sounds like something that's out of control of the humans behind it, though.
No, it's not. It is still evaluated by a human in terms of output. Now, it's gotten way beyond that. That was in a singular model. Now we're talking about now there's the possibility, and there are going to be that where you have AIs for a specific task that are specialized, that process certain things, and then move on and say, hey, I'm done here. I'm going to move it on to you. And you're going to probably have guardian AIs that are sit over these.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
I want them there.
Yeah. So,
we're coming to that world where right now, we have spent so much time, and we're talking about the war front here, and that's worrying about aggressive warrior races, Russia in particular. They have that reputation as a brute force nation. Well, they've never had a reputation as a technologically advanced nation. The technologically advanced nations have also always been those of North America and those of China,
correct,
Japan, the Asian bloc, and that is where the future is. Is it going to become an East versus West based on philosophical? I mean, the East is going to develop AI because of this certain philosophy, the West this philosophy. It's going to leave these brute nations out. They're just going to have to go along for the ride. Is that where we're headed?
I think for the most part, yeah. I think Russia's too and you're exactly right. They've Good engineering, but on the computer front, they're just not.
They've
never been a technical player.
And you never hear of any countries besides.
It's the
really,
United States and China.
Exactly,
really.
exactly.
It's the two main players.
And Japan's got to be in there too, but they're they're great at building the technology. Yeah. Maybe China's developing it, and then
they're robotics, right? Their engineering robotics they're just top notch, and their manufacturing is top notch. And then
so we want to stay really good friends with Japan
and South Korea too.
Space travel.
AI. South Korea.
Where's space travel? Where's AI going to take space travel in the next 5-10 years?
It's absolutely required. You can't do it without it. As an example, if you look at what Musk built, and this is why Musk is so big on the AI front. When you look at the Crew Dragon, right, the New Dragon capsule, when they launched that up and they were doing their flight testing. The astronauts of years ago, right? We're talking shuttle time.
Right.
You had to be a pilot. You had to learn how to fly.
You did.
You had to learn how to fly a stick, and and not only that, but fly a stick in space, right? But now it's button pushing and monitoring the computer. That's what they did. They just watched the screen, and the AI guided that capsule all the way in to capture on the International Space Station.
And there's nothing bad about that.
There's nothing.
That's absolutely
that was an AI. Right?
I feel like that is absolute necessary technology if you're going to do long space journeys to Mars, or if you're going to build a space station around the moon, where there's not instantaneous, you can get people up there.
Absolutely, and if you look at, there's a great TV show, The Expanse, that is a good depiction of like where we're not too far away from that kind of that society.
Your students, I want to touch on.
Yes,
because,
I know.
Are the light bulbs coming on in your class?
Absolutely.
Tell me about
Here's what's amazing. So our program in Salina, we have our machine learning and autonomous systems program here. We had some rankings that had come out here, and we were in the top. We were number 3, but we were in the list of the top 10, and it was like amazing, and it's a testament to what we've been doing out here. And not just from that, but in advanced air mobility, space systems. But our those 3 buckets, I would say, between machine learning, advanced air mobility in space, and autonomous systems. I don't want to lose out on the robotics and what we've been doing out here, because we have a phenomenal robotics program as well that people might not be aware of. They're loving it, right? I mean, I get calls all the time from Kansas City to Denver, like, hey, that's amazing what you guys are building out there. And we have amazing projects that we're working on, and it's a great if you're looking for advanced tech and be able to get on with what we're doing in this front, right? AI, space, autonomy, aerospace. Our students are able to work on these projects.
Well, didn't we just see? I feel like we just saw a tragic example of where AI could have saved the day, and that was a couple of weeks ago in Washington with that air disaster, that helicopter.
Yes.
If AI is built into both of these vehicles, you still have humans, but AI would have seen something coming that these people didn't see. I mean, that's where they could.
Absolutely. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
Actually, AI and spatial computing would have been. So there's this thing that we've and hasn't been cleared for approval, but if air traffic controllers have the ability to have an augmented reality lens that sits on front of them that can reduce their cognitive load in an airspace, but then feed them the information that they need, using an AI to help feed that information, right? It's an interplay between, augmented reality and AI.
Even on board,
it would have been I won't say it.
But even on board the aircraft, where AI says, "Oh, we are way too close, bring it down."
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Oh, sure.
That's right.
The whole thing.
That's right. Yeah. Autonomy within the aircraft.
Coming back, final thoughts, Dr. Michael Pritchard, Kansas State University, AI and everything that means.
We know in the last 55 minutes, AI has doubled in its capacity to learn. I mean, that's about how fast it seems to be learning. But we have you on about every 3 to 6 months to kind of talk about it. So if we talk to you this summer, what do you think we're going to be talking about that you see out there on the horizon that we're not quite aware of yet?
I'd say the embodied systems, what I call it's the AI.
R2D2, C3PO.
Yeah, it's the humanoid robots. Yeah.
Does it look like a can or does it look like me?
They're everything in between. Everything in between.
I want one of those robotic dogs that likes this neighbor but not that neighbor. But that's the kind of stuff you're talking about, though.
Yeah,
stuff that can help you around the house.
Help around the house, but also get into hazardous environments. You know, if there's a fire,
that's where it's going to start,
right? Yeah,
that's where it's going to start.
Yes.
In California wildfires,
right.
in hazardous leaks of chemicals, things where humans just can't safely get to.
Correct. That's where you're going to see it, and a lot of that is going to be expanded upon because the reasoning capabilities of robots have been not that good. But now we weren't, where I'm going is we weren't good at building brains, right? But now with the large language models, we've got tremendously good at building brains, and now we can put that brain in a robot.
So I've got grandkids. He's got kids. He's going to have grandkids. Are they going to have servants, like robotic servants at home?
Absolutely.
Do you think by the time
within our lifetimes, for sure?
Their kids won't have to mow the yard.
We're actively.
That'd be wonderful.
Well, we might have our hands on one. We've been actively trying to get one.
You
here.
might have one out at K-State.
We
for
might
people
have one in Salina.
Wow, that is exciting.
Yeah.
It's scary, but it's exciting.
Yeah. And here's this is the price point of the current Unitree G1 robot. You can get them as cheap as about $30,000 right now.
Wasn't Elon Musk one who said he's planning on getting units out in the next year or so?
Yeah, for manufacturing.
Yeah.
And not just manufacturing, but for other tasks. But yeah, if you look at BMW, they've got a test facility, and they're using humanoid robots in a prototype manufacturing.
I know there's a lot of people nervous about, well, if that happens, we're going to lose a lot of jobs because, if a robot does it, a human's not. But I do have that faith that there's going to be jobs for the humans.
There's going to be a shift in the skill set.
Yeah,
right?
just like there was with the Industrial Revolution and then coming out of it. Yeah, there always will
There's
be.
There's going to be.
We'll figure out a way to put people to work.
Yeah,
we will.
I mean, it's going to be it'll be good.
I will be the commissioner of the Robot Football League.
See,
it always goes. A new job just got created.
Always, when they can actually do the finesse of playing a baseball game, we'll talk.
Oh,
or a basketball game, which is a lot more finesse than football.
I think you're right.
Football's brute force.
It's been fantastic, Dr. Michael Pritchard. Thanks so much.
As always, thank you for having me.
If folks have an amazing one, they're like, I got to talk to this guy. How do they get a hold of you?
Oh, you can always find me over at salina.ksu.edu and
take one of his classes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You'll keep wanting to come back.
We're waving bye-bye. Have a great day, folks. Glad you were here.